I've got some exciting updates of what's been happening at the City of Mulberry. So if you want to hear what those updates are, you definitely want to listen to this podcast and stay tuned. Hi, I'm Michael Coker, Mayor of the City of Mulberry, and we have some really exciting updates and things that are happening at Mulberry right now that I just can't wait to share with you. If you've been coming to our City Council meetings or if you've been following along, you probably already know some of this, but if you're someone who maybe hasn't listened in to the last couple City Council meetings, you might have missed out on some pretty awesome updates that are happening around our city. First off, the thing that's most exciting to me is if you've been by City Hall lately, you might notice that there are some Woodstock police vehicles parked in the parking lot. Now you might be like, well, why are there City of Woodstock police vehicles parked in the Mulberry City Hall parking lot? Well, the City of Woodstock was kind enough to donate to us 4 police vehicles that are ultimately, they decommissioned from the City of Woodstock. And they gave them to us knowing that we're a new city, want to be a good neighbor and help us out. And so they ultimately have agreed to continue to give us these police vehicles for our Marshal Department. And so the City of Mulberry, as part of the code enforcement, has started a Marshal Department. Now, what is a Marshal Department? Well, a Marshal Department drives around the city and basically looks for any code violations or issues that are going on in the city. And they work in tandem with the police department to continue to keep our city safe as part of our public safety initiative and part of keeping our city looking and feeling like a great place to live. And so pretty soon, you're going to see those former Woodstock police vehicles wrapped with the new Mulberry Marshals logo, and you're going to see them driving around the city. They have lights, they have sirens, they have everything in there, but it will be an added layer of protection for us here in the city. And so it's going to be a really cool, really awesome thing to kind of, again, have a local entity, a Marshal Department, driving around our city, helping assist the police officers, helping to assist with code enforcement, and helping to do things that will continue to keep our city just looking great. And so we expect that by the end of October, you'll start to see these vehicles driving around. So if you're driving to Publix or you're driving to Home Depot and you see a Mulberry Marshal vehicle, definitely get on and let us know, because we're going to love to see them driving around. We're going to love seeing those Mulberry Marshals driving around and basically continuing what the team at City Hall has done, which is just phenomenal, to continue to make Mulberry basically this ultra desirable city that everybody wants to live in, work here, and ultimately play here. So when you see those vehicles driving around, definitely, like I said, let us know. But it's a really exciting thing, and I'm really looking forward to having those marshals here. So that's the first major thing that you're seeing, is the Mulberry Marshal Department has been created. Chief Jones, who is the former chief at Woodstock, is going to be the chief marshal for the City of Mulberry Marshals. And you should start to see the effects of that Marshal Department driving around right now. The second update and thing that you might not know from the City of Mulberry right now is that we're about to move into a bigger space for our City Hall. So if you've been to any of our City Hall meetings at the Terran Trace location, you probably know how tight the quarters were. We were meeting in a room not much bigger than the room that I'm in here right now. And it felt tight, it seemed tight, and we couldn't always fit everybody in the room. Well, now we're moving directly across the street of Terran Trace, and we have the entire ground floor of the new building. And so we'll have a much larger space for our Planning Commission meetings, City Council meetings, Zoning Board of Appeal meetings. We'll have a section of that building for our Marshal Department. So if you have a code enforcement concern or an issue in the city, you can go to our Marshal Department, go up to their window, talk to them, and we can get a Mulberry Marshal out to take a look at it. But we're just going to have a lot more office space, a lot more space for our staff. And it's really, really exciting because the city's only 10 months old. So really, we're still an infant. And yet we've already outgrown our space. We're already in our new location, which is beautiful and much more space for us to use. So if you find yourself near Duncan Creek Park, stop across the street off Terran Trace and see our new location, which is directly across the street in the cul-de-sac from our old location. You'll see the signs, you'll know where to go. But definitely stop by, come to a council meeting, and that's something that's really, really exciting that I'm super proud of. Next up, there's been a lot of ordinance passed lately concerning things like Unified Development Ordinance. You've had building ordinances and architectural standards. And so your City of Mulberry Council and staff has been really busy putting into place ordinances that ultimately will continue to keep the city looking beautiful and will make sure that the items and buildings that are built in Mulberry are ultimately well built and ultimately look great and will last the test of time. So the last thing we want in Mulberry is cheap buildings, cheap building materials, things like that coming into our city that ultimately aren't going to last, right? And so we have put architectural requirements, we've put Unified Development Ordinance, certain zones that we want to preserve the character of the neighborhood. So for example, in our UDO or our Unified Development Ordinance, we have certain areas of the city that are going to be reserved for certain types of housing. And one of the things that we've designated is these equestrian zones. So if you know, for example, that Mulberry Park, you'll know that Mulberry Park was initially designed to be a horse park. They have horse trailer parking, they have horse trails, and we want to preserve that. That's a big part of our history as a city, going all the way back to the Native Americans, the early settlers. And so we want to continue that. And so there's going to be entire sections of the city that are going to be dedicated to this equestrian zoning. And what is equestrian zoning? Think of like the houses on large lots with stables and barns and, horse trails that will ultimately connect to Mulberry Park. And so these equestrian zonings have actually been codified and put into our ordinance, that this is something that's important to us. And so if there's a builder that comes in and they're in one of these equestrian zones, they're going to be required to ultimately meet those equestrian requirements as part of our UDO. And so that's a really exciting thing because, again, it keeps that kind of rural equestrian feel that many parts of our city currently have, so that we can maintain that. And there's nothing, in my opinion, more beautiful than a bunch of, horses out grazing in a field. And we want to keep that. We want that to be a big part of the future of the city of Mulberry. And so that's part of our zoning, part of our ordinances. And it's a really big update that ultimately will maintain the character of the neighborhood. The last kind of big update I'll give you is you're about to see some pretty significant work that's going to happen by the Department of Transportation at the Hamilton Mill exit. Your council's worked a lot with the Georgia Department of Transportation. Unfortunately, they didn't give us everything that we wanted, but it's a good start. They're going to rework the intersections at Hamilton Mill, the exit ramp to I-85 northbound. It's going to allow for more traffic to exit easier from that Interstate 85. And then the phase 2 is going to rework the intersection of 124 and Hamilton Mill Road. So your council's working very, very hard to come up with ways that we can alleviate some of that horrible traffic in that area. And so we just want you to know that we're working with DOT. They have already committed to doing those 2 projects. You should start to see barrels and cones out very soon for the first phase of those 2 projects. But we're continuing to explore opportunities, continuing to look at ways that your local council can get involved to make sure that we can try to alleviate some of the traffic concerns that we already have in that area. So that's the other kind of major update and major thing that we've been working on. So that's really 4 big things that are happening at Mulberry. We have the Marshals Department, we have the new City Hall, we have the updates to the Unified Development Ordinance, and then we have these DOT projects that are about to get started. So that is a pretty big update of some of the wonderful things that are happening in Mulberry. And so if you like getting these updates, if you like learning more about the city of Mulberry, then definitely like and subscribe to this podcast. But just remember, it's always great to be in the city of Mulberry. And I thank you to everybody who's out there, who's listening, who's watching, who's committed to making and keeping this city as beautiful as it always has been. And so until next time, thanks for listening.